Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Planette. Okay, so we got a race against time here. You know, Ruby has to go down to Earth and attend her younger sister's wedding. Ruby has outlived everyone in her family so far. She's doggone near 100 years old, and all of her younger siblings have passed on, and this is the last one pretty much. So there's going to be a race against time. This is episode 6. So let's listen together. See you on the other side. Introduction to the Planette. The Planette, a place for women, where women share ideas, where women contribute to a feminine society and community, educate one another, relate to one another. On June 1st, 1961, 34-year-old Ruby Severs was walking home from work one evening after finishing her shift at her job when she was encountered by a strange man. Ruby's husband did not come to pick her up because he was passed out intoxicated on the sofa at home, so she braved the 6 blocks to her house alone. She realized the man following her meant harm, so she began running. The street was quiet, and there was no one around to help her. She rounded the corner and found a door that led to an old warehouse and hurried inside, securing the door behind her. She was frightened and confused. She could only whisper the right words. "Help me. Please help me, somebody." After those words, she closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was in a strange place, another world she had never seen before. She saw a beautiful beach with clean water and white sand. The waves of the sea crashed, having a calming effect on her soul. The skies were blue, the bluest she had ever seen. There was no one else in sight as she looked around and discovered there were many resources which she later used to build up the place, to make it more inhabitable, to make it a home. Oh, she was excited. Ruby returned to Earth shortly afterward and told her husband about the beautiful place she had been. But he did not believe her. Instead, he had her committed to an asylum. But she escaped, and she made her way back to the warehouse with hospital staff chasing her. She uttered those words, "Somebody help me." Yes, somebody help me. Instantly, she was transferred back to the planet she discovered. Later, Ruby returned to Earth and told her 27-year-old friend Jackie about the planet, and they returned together and began building a home they now call the Planette. Welcome to the Planette, where women rule, where girls learn, where there are no men. Episode 6, Scene 1. The shuttle dropped Ruby off in a field a few miles from her late sister's house, where she ordered an Uber using her earthbound mobile phone. The car pulled up in front of Detta's house. Ruby fought back tears. She remembered taking care of her younger sister when they were children. She opened the door and the driver removed her large suitcase from the trunk. Ruby could already feel how the environment was affecting her negatively. She felt smothered. She reached into her purse and pulled out a pill and took it. That pill alleviated the chest congestion. The bottle of pills was necessary as her phase-in, phase-out shoes were. She rolled her large suitcase to the house and rang the bell. Her niece answered the door. Auntie! Hey! It's so good to see you. It seems like it's been so long since I've seen you. Oh, the same here, dear. Ruby thought maybe Charla could come and live on the Planette now that she did not have to take care of her mother anymore. You look fabulous, Aunt Ruby. I mean, where is the fountain of youth? You just don't age. Oh, thank you, honey. Charla led her aunt to the family room where other family members were gathered, including Charla's sister, Beverly, who stood and hugged her aunt. You always look like $1 million, Aunt Ruby. I love those shoes. Ruby donned a pair of dark green leather shoes that matched the dark green skirt suit and gold silk blouse she wore. It was mid-November, considered cold, especially in Michigan that time of year. She did not have to endure cold weather on the Planette, which fluctuated between an average of 65 lows and 82 highs. What size shoe do you wear, Aunt Ruby? I get somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8, depending. Ruby stood 5'7", was 142 pounds with a solid build. She and the girls on the Planette loved to go hiking and rowboating. Well, if you ever think about getting rid of them shoes, make sure you keep me in mind, Auntie. I certainly will. Charla handed her aunt a glass of water. Ruby took a sip. Thank you, Charla, darling. Have you given any thought to joining me? I think that might be possible now that Mother's gone. That would be great. Ruby did not respond to Beverly when she piped in. She loved them both. They were both her nieces, but Beverly was risky. Not all women belonged on the Planette, especially those who were male-identified. The screening process had tightened. They'd had too many women over the years who centered men, which put the residents of the Planette at risk. Beverly was one of those women who would sell her own mother for a man. Episode 6, Scene 2. Charla showed Ruby to her room, and her great-nephew Lee carried her large suitcase up the stairs. Here you go. What you got in this thing, Aunt Ruby? Daggone thing heavy. Everything, including her laptop and all other necessities, were in that bag. She opened the suitcase and pulled out her laptop and connected with the Planette. Jackie's face appeared on screen. Hey, you must have some great reception down there. How's it going so far, Ruby? I see you made it down there safely. Well, things are going as much to be expected. But how are you? I know you and Dada were close. I'm making it, Jackie. And you still cannot believe you outlived your younger sister. It was as if Jackie had read Ruby's mind. No, I can't. Hey, listen, I have to go. I believe that's my niece. Okay, Ruby, you keep us posted. Ruby closed her laptop. Come in. The door opened and Beverly stepped in. Is everything okay? You need anything? I see you already have towels and washcloths. No, I'm fine, Beverly. Thank you very much. Beverly sat on the bed next to Ruby and said, You know, Aunt Ruby, If you didn't look so great to be 89, I would think you were pulling our leg about that planet you live on. Beverly. Well, I mean, you don't have not one strand of gray hair, no wrinkles. You don't look a day over than 50 or maybe even 40. Ruby knew she was trying to con her. She wanted to know what Beverly really wanted. Thank you, Beverly. I appreciate the compliment, but you are awesome. I mean, you are absolutely gorgeous, Auntie. Is there some fountain of youth up there that keeps everyone looking so young? Ruby was not about to tell Beverly anything regarding the Planette. She liked to keep the details of the Planette very close to her chest. Why, no, there is no fountain of youth, Beverly. Oh, there has to be. But we just live. There has to be. I mean, look at you, Auntie. I need you to transport me some of that water of youth. You look younger than me, and I'm not even 50. Although what Beverly said was true, Ruby knew she was laying on the flattery rather thick. She wondered what it was that Beverly wanted. The last time she'd been there, her niece tried to hit her up for some money. She had to explain to her that she didn't use money where she lived. Nobody used money on the Planette. There was something Beverly wanted, and Ruby knew that soon she would find out. She removed some of her clothes from the suitcase and hung them up in the closet. What's that fragrance you wearing, Aunt Ruby? It's called Me. One of our ladies invented it. Oh, if you sold that fragrance down here, you would make a fortune. As Beverly spoke, she kept her eyes on those gold shoes in her aunt's suitcase. She had never seen that style of shoes before. Her eyes bounced from her aunt to the contents of that suitcase. She reached for them once Ruby turned her back. Hey, y'all! Charlotte made her way upstairs and entered the room just as Beverly was placing her hand on those shoes. Beverly was certain those shoes would change owners. Hey, Charlotte, come in. I'm just hanging up my things. We're having meatloaf, but I know you don't eat meat, Aunt Ruby, so I fixed you a grand salad. Only vegetables. Oh, thank you, darling. Let's go. I'm sure Auntie will need some rest once she's had a bite to eat, Charlotte said as she ushered her sister out of the room. They all headed downstairs to the kitchen. Episode 6, Scene 3. Would you like to try it? The teacher asked. The class was testing drones. They would release them from the handheld device, and the small drones looked like carpenter bees. They were used to observe things taking place on Earth. Sure, Asher said as he aimed the device in the sky and pulled the trigger. It shot out like a bullet. Now we'll go back to the observation lab and test it, Miss Hunter said. The class of 8 headed to the large complex where IT, security, engineering was housed. Miss Hunter sat behind one of the computers and loaded it up. She located the drone and positioned it in an area of West Africa, pinpointing Senegal. The students watched from the angle of the street level. Some people were walking through the marketplace, and they dodged the drone as if they thought it was a real carpenter bee. Miss Hunter offered Asher the controls. Aim high so you won't collide with the people walking around, she told Asher. He loved this. It felt like they were spying. Each student was able to observe different parts of the world. One girl wanted to observe her old neighborhood. Once they reeled in the drone and headed back outside and located it near the place where it was discharged. Miss Hunter, how do we know where it's going to land once it gets back here? Asher wanted to know. It has a UPS inside. It's like a universal positioning system, somewhat like a GPS. It always returns to the location it was released from. That's super cool. Why do you always talk like that? One of the girls asked. She was a 17-year-old who had been on Planette for over 3 years. Talk like what? He asked, trying his best to soften his voice, but it was hard. He was rapidly growing into a man, using words like super cool and stuff. My brother used to say that. Oh, well, I don't know. They returned to the observation room. They passed the area where the phase-in, phase-out shoes were kept. Someone had left the cabinet open, and that's when Asher realized where those shoes were kept. He hesitated, staring at the contents of the cabinet. Ashley? Ashley, are you with us? He heard Miss Hunter ask. Yes, ma'am. He hurried towards the rest of the group where they continued class, where Miss Hunter explained the UPS and how it relates to the entire universe. And remember, ladies, the planet you live on has an address, no matter which planet you live on. Every place has a longitude, latitude. One girl said, That is correct, Sarah. You ladies can now head on to independent study. The girls grabbed their learning tools, packed their backpacks, and headed towards the door. Asher was the last one out. He turned around. Miss Hunter was speaking with one of the security officers. He looked around the room. The huge monitors with all types of images of different parts of the universe never failed to take his breath away. He slowed down once he approached the open cabinet containing the phase-in, phase-out shoes. He frantically looked for a pair that could fit him. He was already wearing a size 9 in men's shoes. The only pair he thought would fit him was on the bottom shelf. He would guess not many women on the planet would fit such large sizes, but they had it just in case. He turned around to make sure no one was watching him before grabbing the shoes and placing them into his backpack. He ran home as fast as he could. Episode 6, Scene 4. The tears did not come flooding out until Ruby arrived at the funeral. There was Detta, laid out in yellow, her favorite color. She had on matching gloves and a hat that matched the dress. Ruby approached the casket, wiped the tears from her eyes, and stared down at her younger sister. Detta, I wanted you to join me for so many years, but I know you had other obligations. Oh! She cursed under her breath, cursed the man who held her sister captive. Men were just selfish. Marriage always benefited them more. Always. She thought back to the days when she had seriously considered putting a hit out on Detta's husband, and she could get away with it because she did not live on Earth. Who would prosecute her? If Detta did not love that man so much and was not so wrapped up in him, Ruby would have gone through with her ideas of eliminating him. She sat in the front row as the minister gave the sermon on Detta's life. She was born in 1938, got married in 1962, and had 2 daughters. Henry, Detta's husband, sat between his daughters, and Ruby sat next to Charla. We are all going to miss Sister Brandley, the minister said, followed by a few amens. And then the funeral was over. Episode 6, Scene 5. Ruby could only feel a sense of relief once the funeral was over and she was back in her room. She was tired. The time travel from the planet to Earth was 11 days, although it felt like an instant. Hey, Aunt Ruby. Are you okay, Aunt Rubes? Charla asked. Ruby was lying on her back. Yes, dear, I'm fine. Charla sat on the side of the bed next to her aunt. Aunt Ruby. Yes, dear. I think I'll come up there soon. Oh, that's wonderful. Will you be leaving with me? No, I'm going to take care of some things and be up there later. Just let me know, honey. Ruby reached into her purse and handed her niece a black square device that was small enough to fit into the palm of her hand. What's this? If you push the little red button, it will connect with me. You plug it into your laptop. Oh, this is nice. Thank you, Aunt Ruby. You get some rest, Auntie. Are you leaving tomorrow? I plan to. And thank you, honey. I love you. Once she was gone, Ruby went to use the bathroom. She stared into the mirror while washing her hands. That's when she noticed 2 gray strands of hair near her forehead. She shut off the water and leaned closer to the mirror and noticed a wrinkle. She had been on Earth for nearly a week, and she knew it was time to get back. It was bad enough. The air on Earth was hard to breathe. She stared at another few minutes at her reflection before heading into the bedroom, removing her clothing, slipping on her nightgown, and closing her eyes. Episode 6, Scene 6. It was not until the next morning that Ruby realized her phase-in, phase-out shoes were missing. She frantically searched the room. How would she be able to return to the Planette without them? She searched the entire house. Charla and Henry had gone out early in the morning. Beverly did not live in the house, so she went home right after the funeral. Where could those shoes be? She wondered. She looked under the bed, emptied her suitcase, and searched the closet. She never took them from the room. She would only wear them to return back to the Planette. She used her Earth mobile phone to call Charla. Hey, Auntie. Everything okay? Hello, Charla. Have you seen my gold heels? Gold heels? No. I don't think I have. I brought my gold heels to transport me back to the Planette, but they're missing, and if I don't find them, what? If you don't find them, what, Aunt Ruby? Oh, never mind. But I really need to locate those shoes. Ruby did not want to alarm her niece. If she didn't find those shoes, she would begin rapidly aging and could possibly die. Have you called Beverly, Aunt Ruby? Beverly? Why would I have to do that? Maybe she stole them? Her niece's revelation alarmed her. She didn't take Beverly to want a pair of shoes like those. And did they even wear the same shoe size? Charla, what on earth would she want with my shoes? Apparently you don't know my sister, Auntie. You cannot leave anything around her. Even if she doesn't wear them, she'll try to sell them. Oh, I'll call you back, Charla. Ruby hung up and called Beverly, but she was immediately dumped into voicemail. Ruby left a message. Beverly, I was calling to let you know I was leaving. And if you have my shoes, could you please bring them back? I really need those shoes. She waited an hour, but her niece did not return her call. Ruby felt her heart palpitating. She opened the laptop to contact Jackie, but realized the battery died. She searched for her power cord, but did not find it. Oh, that's just fantastic. Oh. She began sinking to the bed. She looked at her hands. They were starting to wrinkle. She headed to the bathroom, looked at her reflection in the mirror. She had aged more. There was more gray hair. Ah! She screamed. She had looked everywhere possible in the house for those shoes before coming to terms that she would not find them. She thought of one more option and called an Uber using a credit card that belonged to her late sister. The Uber pulled up. "Sir, please take me to the Dran warehouse immediately." The driver looked at her oddly and said, "Ma'am, that warehouse is closed. It's been closed for years." "Young man, I would appreciate it if you would just take me there, please." "Okay, at your service." She could feel his apprehension but could not focus on that. Her health was declining, and it seemed every ache and pain she would have had leading up to her age was coming all at once. Her joints, legs, headaches, dizziness, and she wondered if she would have died by now because the environment on Earth was taking its toll on her. The car suddenly stopped. Ruby couldn't figure out what was going on until she noticed the traffic. Panic set in. "Oh my goodness, what is with the traffic?" "Ma'am, it's 4 in the afternoon. This is normal. We're only 5 blocks from your destination." He did not finish his sentence before he heard the back door open and she was gone, leaving her luggage behind. "Ma'am! Ma'am!" he called, but Ruby staggered down the street towards the warehouse. She crossed the street and heard car horns angrily blaring at her as one of the cars barely missed her. "Hey, old lady, you lost your mind or something?" someone yelled at her, but Ruby ignored the impatient drivers as she stumbled into the next block. She could see the warehouse. It was close, yet so far. Because her energy ran low, she struggled to breathe and could feel her legs giving out on her, but she was determined to get to that warehouse. She finally arrived, took a breath, placed her hand on the door, but it did not open. "Oh, please, somebody help me, please, please," she barely whispered. Then a homeless man approached her out of nowhere and said, "You trying to open the door, lady?" Ruby leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. "Yeah, ma'am, the door's a little tough. You just gotta tug on it a little bit," the man said as he yanked the door handle. She didn't realize the door was not locked, but she was just too weak to open it. Her body was behaving just like a person just a decade away from turning a century old. She managed a thank you to the man before staggering into the building. She found the spot where she first stood the day she was transported to the Planette, and she said it. "Help me, please." Episode 6, Scene 7. Ruby. Ruby. She heard her name. Her brain was still in a fog. She managed to open her eyes. Jackie stood on one side of her, holding her hand. Dr. Fatima was on the other side, balancing her laptop. "That was a pretty bad scare, Miss Ruby." Where am I? "You're safe and sound in your own bed. That was a pretty bad ordeal." Ruby had transported to the observation lab once she landed back on the Planette. She'd been in pretty bad condition. Her breathing was shallow and she had aged. She was immediately transported to the medical center where Dr. Fatima and her staff worked fervently to restore her health using a solution from the rook tree that restored youth. "Oh, I'll get that," Jackie said, getting up, leaving the two of them in the bedroom. She returned with the head of security. "I need to inform you ladies today that Jillian's daughter Ashley left the Planette. She stole a pair of phase-in, phase-out shoes and took off this morning." "What? Why? Why would she do that?" "Ma'am, we don't know that, Dr. Fatima. We don't know why she did it, but we just do know that Jillian is beside herself right now." Shamira entered the room. "Hi, Ruby. I know you're trying to rest, but there's more information about Ashley." Ruby was feeling better and had regained her strength. What is it, Shamira?" "On the way over here, I spoke with Ashley's teacher. Or should I say, his teacher." "His? Dr. Fatima asked. "Yes, doctor, his. It turns out Ashley's real name is Asher. He told Miss Hunter right before taking off." "Well, that would explain why the environment looks a lot better now, and it doesn't look so dark as it had been." "That is 100% correct, Jackie. But something has to be done about Jillian. She hid this from us, knowing he was her son and not her daughter." She looked over at Ruby as she said that. "Yes, Jackie, it is definitely a violation." There was no question what would be done about this type of violation. Shamir, Jackie, and the head of security left right away. "Okay, Miss Ruby, you get some rest. Your team will handle it," Dr. Fatima said as she checked Ruby's IV. "Thank God for such a wonderful team." Fatima helped Ruby settle back in bed before leaving herself. Episode 6, Scene 8. Jillian finished packing her things. The security team and Jackie stood in the living room until she was ready to be transported to the airfield, where they would shuttle her back to Earth. Jillian noticed how it appeared nighttime on that side of the Planette. She began crying. "I'm sure that there's something else you can do other than sending me back to Earth," she begged. Her daughter stood before her. She hugged her mother and said, "I'm gonna miss you, Mom, but I have to stay here." "Jillian, we have to get going," Jackie said as she ushered her towards the 9-passenger shuttle vehicle. Jillian hesitated, hugged her daughter again, tears pouring down her face. This wasn't fair. If they were looking for a solution where men could remain on the Planette, what was the big deal? She stepped into the shuttle and everyone buckled their safety belts. The shuttle took off like a rocket. Liz watched until it disappeared in space. Then she started crying. Jackie placed her hand on Liz's shoulder and said, "Your mother will be fine, and you'll be fine. I know you're going to miss her." "I am going to miss my mom, but I don't want to leave." Liz wiped her tears and they headed to the vehicle. Liz would be living alone, but that would not matter. There were so many teens on the Planette who did live alone. Episode 6, Scene 9. Asher had ditched the feminine clothes as soon as he arrived back to Earth. He walked the street for a while. Once he had landed on Earth, he went to have himself a burger and fries. Instead of paying once he was done, he slipped out of the restaurant. He didn't have any money. He walked until he arrived home where his father still lived. As he approached the porch, he noticed the overgrown grass, paint peeling from what used to be a white porch, and the dusty metal chairs on the porch. The place looked like it had not been taken care of in a long time, and that was because of his mother's absence. He knocked on the door. His father answered, looking perplexed.
Asher.
Yeah, Dad, it's me.
Well, you look different. You look a whole lot older than 14.
It's a long story, Dad.
Where's your mother and your sister?
I'm sure Mom will be back, but I know Liz isn't coming back. The dad stepped back, allowing his son into the house, and shut the door. This was only the beginning. All right, y'all. Did y'all see that? Pretty intense, wasn't it? That's pretty darn intense. She almost didn't make it back. Poor Ruby. But she was a determined woman, I tell you, Ruby. After her niece, her ratchet, Dustiana niece, stole her shoes. Now, Ruby could get Charla, her other niece, to kick her butt, but that ain't Ruby's style. Ruby, you know, she just let it go, whatever. But I'd have kicked Beverly's behind. I'd have put a hit on her, because she almost did Ruby in. But here's the thing, you see how Earth responds differently to the female chemistry versus the planet. Okay, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. You want to be able to get the next episode in about 3 days. Okay, so if it's a Wednesday, the episode will be on Saturday. If it's a Saturday, it's going to be the following Wednesday. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed, and see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.